Hello everybody, welcome back to Bull Street. Bull Street Reacts in this instance, and the reason we're here and the reason we're live is because the transfer window will never be the same again, Flav.
No, because it won't end on my birthday. It's the best news I've had all year. Don't ever ruin my birthday again because of transfer news.
Those of you, of course, will have seen it in the last 20 minutes, or those of you arriving now and finding out the Premier League has decided that the transfer window will close before the start of the season now. Probably because Flav's birthday is on the 31st and they felt like they wanted to change it to give you the birthday you deserve.
Yeah.
Let's give you some of the main facts, but we want to hear what you have to think about this. Massive questions to be asked. Are you devastated the deadline day is gone? How does this affect your team, the team that you support? If you support a big team, how's it going to affect them in Europe? If you're a lower league team, how's it going to affect you guys in terms of selling players? And will the price of players, certainly Premier League players, will that go down or go up now because of this? Let us know in the comments. We'll be reading them and just having a chat and basically reacting to this story.
Yeah.
But the main lines from it are that it wasn't actually a unanimous vote. 14 out of 20 have to vote. So 14 out of the 20 Premier League teams need to vote for this to happen.
Sky Sports suggested that it was 17 out of the 20. Which three do you think?
Well, that's a good question. I wonder who those three are. And this is maybe something we can, because this has just dropped, so we're going to kind of have to dive into the permutations of what could happen here. I think it's something that I bet it's either 3 teams down the bottom or 3 teams at the top that didn't want this to happen. Let us know what you think about it. So, as you know, at the moment, 31st of August, 11 o'clock it was this year, that's when deadline day normally shuts. It's now going to be on August the 9th, before the season starts, the Thursday before the season starts. And it's going to shut at 5 o'clock.
It's a weird one.
What are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, my first thought was that it's a good thing. It's a good thing. All the clubs will know where their squad's at before the start of the season. We'll know what team we have going into the season. We won't be able to strengthen if the season doesn't start the way it should. You know, there's certain teams in the Premier League that have a distinct advantage over other teams purely because they have money to spend. Most teams, I think, well, we've got a finite budget. We know what we need to do. We have to get these players in early before the start of the season. They get a couple of losses and they get pretty much stuck with that team. Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, for example, if they lose the first couple of games, they can go out and spend another 100 million and fix their season really before the much damage is done. So in that instance, it's a much fairer competition. But my first instance was, what about all of the other competitions? So the Football League remains the 31st.
So yeah, 2 crucial stats in this story is the fact that across Europe, nothing changes. Exactly the same. It's going to be the 31st of August. And initially we were wondering what the news would be. Would it be one where the Premier League teams can't sell players after that 9th of August deadline? Turns out they can do.
Yeah.
So European teams will be able to buy Premier League players up until the 31st of August. And the Football League, which of course is separate to the Premier League, you can do what you want there as well. So,
in terms of, just to cut in there,
yeah,
in terms of making players, whether it make them more expensive or cheaper, infinitely more expensive. So the minute the transfer window closes, Real Madrid, Barcelona want to come in and buy Harry Kane. We have to then be compensated in such a way that we can't refuse that, because we have no obligation. There's no reason, there's no benefit to selling Harry Kane after the transfer window's shut.
Yeah.
So what happens is that Real Madrid have to pay double his worth. So if he's worth 200 million in the transfer market currently, they have to go over and above, well over and above, just for Spurs to even consider it, because there's no benefit from it.
Well, do you think that, or is it possibly the other side of the coin as well? Is that if people need to, if there's a feeling that you need to get rid of any kind of players, then the price goes plummeting because you've got a strong hand.
Who has?
The European clubs.
Yeah. That's true.
If you need to get players off your wage bill, maybe the way that it is set up, we'll go through your comments in just a second. Because the way it's set up, it might be a weird little levelling for the finances of these deals, where we've seen, I'll say Chamberlain, that 40 million is the new 10 million.
Yeah.
So maybe they're gonna have to tweak and change. Let's have a look at some of your comments. Newcastle Fans TV, transfer window definitely needs to close early. Look at what happened with Newcastle. The carry on we had, getting no players in so late because we needed to shift players out, but Europe needs that time, I think is what he's trying to say. Rafa Benitez has been very, very clear on his feelings about it. He didn't like the fact that it goes into the season itself. He wanted it sorted before the season started, so he will have definitely been one of those people who would have voted for this to come in.
Do you think that UEFA now will follow suit now that someone has made the first step and thought, all right, well, someone's got to stop this and ensure that, you know, teams have an equal footing going into the start of the season, or will they think actually it's way too close to, let's say, a World Cup year where you've got a couple 3 weeks after the World Cup finishes, the transfer window shuts in England.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, on a domestic level, I don't think it makes a great deal of difference. Okay, it's actually a fair. No, I think it's fairer. I think it's a much better thing in terms of like I said, how teams go into the season on an equal footing because everyone knows the business that's been done. You can't fix problems by spending money. But in terms of Europe, I think everybody else, the longer you have to buy players and scout players and make those deals happen, the bigger advantage you have. So Real Madrid, Barcelona have a bigger advantage over teams going into the Champions League.
So that's a really good point, is the fact that 3 weeks you'll have after the World Cup to get your players. So those gambles that you inevitably see after a World Cup finals where a player for whatever, Senegal or Russia has had one decent tournament and you go, right, let's get him now. You're going to have to do that a lot quicker now. The Football League is expected to follow suit. That's one thing that we have seen, so that might make it a little bit more different. But for me, this seems like you're cheapening the hand of Premier League clubs. You're making life more difficult for them in terms of getting players in and out.
But who's them themselves are making it more difficult? You know, this is ultimately a majority decision.
Okay.
I guess the people that have voted against it, they're brewing.
Let us know what you think in the comments. We're going to go into them now. What do you think this means for European teams, Barcelona, Real Madrid? You know what European teams are. And what about teams in England who are in those European competitions, obviously the big guys, but also those teams at the bottom of the table, those mid-table teams trying to survive in the Premier League. Does this make their chances better at staying, or is it just going to add to the gulf of it? And what the squad size is going to look like now? Are people going to be more reluctant to let players go out on loan or let them leave at all? Are they just going to start to stockpile players just in case something happens? Because that's the other thing. You've got a 25-man Premier League squad. Hopefully that doesn't happen, and it might be a fairer thing. I don't think you'll see a great deal of difference to the way English clubs do their business. There's a reason why they get so much business done around in the end of a transfer window. It's because people wait because the prices become more realistic then. Clubs know that they can't just hold and the price will go up and up and up. There's a reason why Tottenham do their business at the end of the year, is because they know that Levy's going to get a fair price for each player. So I'll be interested to see what of all Premier League fans, what they actually think. Do they feel that their teams become more there's more obstacles in their way to being successful because of this move? I'd be curious to see. Let's have a look, see what you guys think. Fergus O'Connor, changes nothing. Business will just be done earlier.
I agree, Fergus.
Lee Wonder says, oh, he's talking to someone else, don't worry. Positive comment, hello Flav darling, he says.
Hello mate, this is good.
Jay Lambro, it will change how contracts are handled massively. Capital letters, that's how important that word was. Massively. Contracts will surely have less release clauses and whatnot. Do you agree with that?
I wasn't listening.
How will contracts? How will this change contracts?
You can't get Rory, because Rory just posted a comment on the thing. Chelsea fan Rory from Chelsea Fans TV. He says it's a poor move, which I'm curious to see.
Idiotic and pointless, he said.
Idiotic and pointless.
We'll get him in.
So he was literally just sitting there, ready to drop some bombs, and then just walks off.
What I wonder certainly with European teams, I wonder if you're going to have Liverpool, August 9th, I'd have to look at the dates again, but if you've got a team that's finishing 4th in the Champions League and you are in the playoffs for the Champions League and you don't know if it's going to happen or not. No, Rory.
No, have you got Sam instead? I call that an upgrade.
Sam, United People's Republic Front of
Judea.
How are we doing? So, what's the news?
For big teams playing in the Champions League, wanting to win the Champions League, how do you see this move? Is this a positive one for Man United?
Mourinho wanted it. Mourinho's called for it quite vocally. He doesn't like the end of the transfer window. He doesn't like the rush. I don't know whether it's really going to change anything or whether the exact same thing's going to happen, but just 2 weeks earlier. I don't understand why you can still sell players, because that kind of puts Premier League clubs backs them against the wall, because then if a huge offer comes in that you can't refuse, do you accept and then just do without the player?
Well, yeah, if they're putting in, I think if they put in a bid
power,
so big,
it's power. It gives power to other European clubs wanting to poach the best players.
That's it. That's the point I was going to make. Is that so? Say you're Liverpool. You finish 4th in the league. You go into the Champions League and you've got a playoff. First of all, you've got to get your squad sorted out before the playoff game. I'm not completely sure on the dates, but I think that's right. I think the deadline day will have happened, and then you've got to go play Hoffenheim, and you're going to go into the Champions League if you win that game with a squad that you've had to gamble with. If not, you've got to go with that squad and go into the Europa League. Maybe isn't a huge problem for those teams because they're big anyway. But then when you get into the group stages, say Barcelona are looking for a striker. They were looking for a striker anyway, and they get Liverpool in their group. They'll be happy to probably spend another 5, 6, 7 million to get Coutinho.
Way more than that.
But they'll be happy to spend that money because they'll know that they're very clearly weakening a rival in their group, which is going to allow you to get through.
I don't think the Champions League group draws happened before August the 9th, but it definitely would have. It would have. This whole Coutinho saga wouldn't have happened this summer because the only reason he stayed at Liverpool, as far as I'm concerned, is because they got into the Champions League. Had they lost that playoff, he would have gone to Barcelona. So it completely changes the scope of everything inside that.
It makes it a much bigger gamble. Yeah. Because if you go, now we're going to be all right, and you're not all right, then you might have too many players.
There's not Barcelona or any other top club in their right mind wouldn't wait until the transfer window is closed in order to try and buy a player. It would make no sense at all.
Why not?
Because they're so much cheaper So Man United have settled on their squad.
Right.
They've got Lukaku up front, and Real Madrid come in and say, "Well, we want Lukaku now," and Man United, "Well, we can't buy anyone. We can't replace him." And they'll go, "Well, we still want him. Well, then you're going to have to pay 400 million because we can't replace him." Why would Real Madrid wait for that period in order to try and buy a player?
It depends if they want to exploit situations at clubs that they know are there. So if they know there's an issue, for example, they're never going to get Lukaku because he's settled, he's ready. But if they know that one player particularly wants to leave, and then they throw a bid in, he puts in a transfer request, the club's like, "What do we do? He doesn't want to be at the club anymore."
So a few people corrected me there. Thank you for that. Apparently, no more playoffs anymore going from next season. Again, I haven't been able to check that now because we're chatting as we go.
What, in Champions League?
Well, hang on, you're agreeing.
Top 4.
So you're taking.
There's quite a few people saying.
You're taking what you know out of YouTube comments.
Champions League doesn't refer to me a lot as a Queen's Park Rangers fan, but it's saying that those top 4 will just go straight through.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If that is the case, then that's a massive thing, and that's probably why those big teams will be actually very, very happy with this. One person made a comment, George O'Mole 14. I think the bottom 3 voted against this. I can see that maybe being the case because certainly for Brighton and for Huddersfield, they've maybe not Newcastle because we know Benitez was strongly for it. But those other 2 guys, they've gone into the Premier League, and you don't know how good your squad is. And I know in only 3 games you can't tell if it's good or not, but it could be glaring where you're struggling and where you need to.
Smaller teams have to gamble a lot more in the transfer market than bigger teams. You know, when Spurs or Man United or Arsenal scout players, they know they're buying quality, and the risk of that player not being as good is much smaller than when you have to speculate on, as Huddersfield have to a certain extent, on players from foreign leagues who, on paper look good, but you just don't know until you get them.
But surely that then puts the onus on the clubs to get their business done before their own pre-season starts, so they have 5, 6 games to see these players and then understand if they're good or if they're shit before the season starts. You take away that, you put pressure on clubs in different respects, because then that rush doesn't come at the end, and it's better for a club if you get your business done early, your squad's together early. It should technically suit clubs, and that's clearly why 17 out of 20 have actually voted for it.
Well, the new early is going to be literally the minute the season starts, so it finishes, because the transfer window doesn't open till June 1st.
Isn't it July?
It's July, but
so you can buy 2 months of chaos.
We're going to have a six week transfer window.
No, but you can sign players, but you can't officially register them to your club.
Right. Humzar Umar says Man United are overrated.
Thank you, mate. Very good insight from you there on this transfer window discussion.
Massive point. Lewis 31M.
Salty, isn't it?
It really screws the team coming up through the playoffs because they have even less time to buy players now. I mean, Huddersfield did very, very well getting those guys in.
Explorer Tim says Tottenham know they're signing quality equals Sissoko.
I did think it. Soldado. The list goes on.
No, you know, touche, fine.
There was one question for me, which I kind of make more broader. Adam, come in, mate. For teams in the Championship, if the Football League doesn't follow suit, I don't think they would have. It would make sense for it to follow suit.
Yeah,
right?
I think they need to follow suit.
How do you think it would impact teams in the Championship? I think that would weirdly help out the teams in the second half of the bottom half of the Champions League, because you can't buy Premier League players anyway. So actually what might happen is the lower league good players, the league below will be maybe a little bit more sought after, or there'll be a bigger focus on those guys, whereas those top teams like Aston Villa will just go for it. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to stop us, like clubs in the top half of the table, getting poached as once the season started.
Yeah.
So
also because yeah,
that's
there's
a
that,
positive.
and obviously there isn't often that Championship and League One players, certainly British ones, leave the Championship. Not like it is in the Premier League in any case. And you can see Premier Leagues and top half Championship teams poaching players from, say, Brentford, as Birmingham did. So everyone would be on that equal footing. But that's not to say you wouldn't lose 3 players on the final day like you did.
But I think actually it's a good point, because I think the gaps won't be as glaring in those sort of first 3 games that you can see, and then that is normally what you do is you're looking for value.
Yeah.
You then drop down into the league below and try and get those players. People want to do it; they're going to have to do it a lot quicker if they want it to work. Let's have a look at your comments. JLFC, you never walk alone. Loan deals run later for the Championship now, don't they? Probably should have read the whole thing before I read it out, because it's a question I don't know the answer to.
Interesting one.
Toon Blades, wow, this changes things massively. If you look at Newcastle's team before the Prem started, we still look shit. Adam does stuff, I'm confused, catch me up with what's happening. So just to be clear, what has happened is that at least 14, we think it's about 17 of the managers, of the owners of the Premier League have decided that they want to shorten the transfer window and change it from closing on the 31st of August, as it has done in the last few years, to the 9th of August at 5 p.m. This, however, doesn't affect the Football League at the moment and European leagues, who will continue to sign players and can continue to buy Premier League players. Okay. So it's an interesting one.
I mean, I think we've kind of covered everything, haven't we? I'm not sure what else we can add. But before we go...
Oh, last one for me.
Go on.
Price of players. Premier League players. Will the price of Premier League players go up or down or stay the same?
After the transfer window, they'll go up astronomically.
Yeah, to the point where they won't...
Well, when it changes to this style?
Yeah, so after that transfer window, no European club will come to England to buy players, because the cost of them will be not astronomical. That's my gut feeling.
Interesting.
It's just harder to buy because people won't be willing to sell their players. They can't buy anyone.
Is it going to be a case of that the Premier League is going to set the precedent and everyone's going to follow suit? Or is it just going to be the Premier League's now isolated itself with its own transfer deadline day that no one else is going to agree with?
I think,
because technically
if I'm
Europe,
the
Premier League.
If I'm in the European League, I think you keep it the same. There's a great point here from Francis Wright. If Lukaku had a buyout clause and Real hit it on August 10th, United would be fucked.
Yeah.
If the player still has to want to leave. I don't know whether in Spain you're not legally obliged to sell out a release clause. I don't know whether that's the case in England.
But you're suggesting Lukaku wouldn't want to go to Real Madrid?
Absolutely. Why would he want to leave United?
Wow.
Alexander Cole, prices are inflated by TV money, not an early closure. That's his feelings on it. Patrick Dempsey, it will also increase Premier League prices once the window is closed. So there you go. As we've kind of chatted about it there, I started to feel like it's the big clubs that they're fine. And again, it's the little clubs that are struggling. They're going to struggle with this. Yeah. Is that what's your conclusion to it?
I think, I'd go with that. I think it'd be a lot more difficult for a smaller club to deny an outside club from buying their players than it would, the top 6 or 7. So, okay. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't think it really damages the Premier League brand too badly. I think the competition will be fairer. I think it would be more difficult to succeed in Europe, but then really who gives a shit about that? I don't care if other teams struggle in Europe. I care if Spurs do, but we're never going to win it anyway, so it really doesn't make any difference to me.
Not with that attitude, Flav.
Well, we won't. And
it could affect QPR's chances of winning the Champions League, so I'm, for one, furious.
Yeah.
Furious. Alexander Cole, here you go, Sam. Sam makes a point. The player does not necessarily have to leave. Yeah, but if it was Coutinho, and that Coutinho situation happens a lot, then I think what is a really good point is that the release clauses are going to go way up high, especially for Premier League players.
And they're not actually that common. They're not that common in England, release clauses.
Not
like they
will
are.
be soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually players will be paid more wages to ensure that they don't have a release clause in their contract, so that they can't get stung on that last day.
Yeah, I think the price for players in the football league within England, all leagues will go up, because if you want that guy and it's getting close to deadline day, then you're going to put up the amount of money that you're going to ask for him. But what could be disastrous maybe for English football is that people will just go, why would I bother trying to buy these guys if they're going to be more expensive? Because people are wary of losing them, and they'll just go to Europe anyway. So it could get even worse. Final one, Andreas Nielsen. More catered deals will be done a year before, which is quite an interesting one. You might get those loan deals that the next season become.
That's quite a healthy way to do things, anyway. I think.
So there you go. That's it. New thing. Bull Street Reacts live, attacking it within the office. We've gone for it. I was having a mulligatawny soup. It was lovely, and now I'm sweating because I ate it too quick. So I've done that for you. So if you want to repay that faith, then subscribe to Bull Street, give this video a like, and let's keep chatting in the comments now. We'll be on the comments for the next hour or so. Let us know your thoughts on this massive news that means the end of Deadline Day Live up to 11. Yes. There you go.